signs, which is very exciting. I think I mentioned this last week. I'm gonna mention it just once more. With animal signs, the more specific you get, the less likely there is to be a sign for it. And I only come in and say this because if you ask me, like, well, how would you sign for I can't even think, like a specific type of animal that's just a rare animal or things like that. Do not be surprised if I say, you're gonna have to fingerspell it. I only say that just so I don't disappoint y'all because, like, I know for me, I usually get really excited when I was learning animals. I was like, oh, what about this one? What about this? What about, and then then I would learn, oh, no, there's not a sign. Okay. So I say that so y'all don't get your hopes super up if you have a very specific, very rare animal that you love and there's not a sign for it. Okay. What we're also going to do is I have a list of animals and we're going to go through those and then I'll leave it open for any other animals you can think of. This list is a bit shorter just to give you guys that opportunity to see what kind of animals you would be specifically thinking of. Okay. So the first sign we're going to do is the sign for animal itself, goodness. And so the sign for animals, you're going to have those bent hand shapes again, and you're going to bring them not in your armpit, but right above them. Okay. And then you're going to basically make the motion of like flapping your wings. So animal. There is a little fly in here that's going to actually drive me crazy. Keeps flying like near my screen and I'm like, I can't, I'm like a dog. I can't focus on a fly flying, like a little fly or anything. Can't do it. I'm real bad about it. So animal. Okay. Then also the sign for pet. So the sign for pet is you're going to have your non-dominant of fist. Your dominant is just going to pet the back of it. Pet. Now with this one, this is one of those where it does go for both. Do you have pets or can I pet the dog? So that one does apply for both. Okay. The first pet we're going to do is a dog pet animal. They're still the same thing. And so with dog, there are two ways you can do them. One is more of the formal ASL, and then the other one is more of your, I hate to say lazy, but your shorthand version. Okay. So what you're going to do for the longer one is you pat your leg and then you're going to pull it in a snap. Dog, 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 dog. And so this is that visual of, when you're trying to call to a dog and you like pat your legs, like, come here, boy, come here, that sort of thing. So that's where that comes from, dog. The other one is going to be, it's almost like you have this eight. It's like 18, basically. It's 18, but on your its side, dog, dog. Some people, I think, oh yeah, my bad. With your pinky and your ring finger down, dog, dog, dog. Mm-hmm. So like I said, this one's the shorthand one. Um, I do see that one pretty common. I think especially because with dogs, dogs are very common. You see dogs quite a bit. So I think that's why this one kind of comes in easier. Okay. And the next one we're going to do is a cat. And so a cat is going to be cat. So it's like you touch your cheek and you pull out to the nine, and it's the whiskers. So all those whiskers coming out. Cat, cat. Okay. Cat. The next one we have is fish. Fish is just like the animal, not animal, the food we talked about with fish. So fish. So with the pointer finger or fish. Fish. Okay. And with fish, that is going to be really covering every type of fish. Like goldfish, beta fish, any of those, what you would do for being specific like that, you probably would want to finger spell. I do know I've seen goldfish, which I know I just threw you. That was the sign for gold. I have seen people do actually gold and then fish. The sign for gold is it's like your middle finger and you pull it away. Gold, gold, gold. So goldfish, goldfish. I would not do that for the crackers though. The food, you could, but I could see some judgment. I would judge you. And I say that with love. I would judge you if you did goldfish for crackers. I'd be like, you mean goldfish? But I'm also just that way. I'm like, when there's food and there's pets, I'm like, there's a difference. Do not sign them at the same time. So, okay. The next one we then have before we stop and review is going to be bird. So bird is We did chick. Did we do chicken last week, actually?
I don't remember
I
doing.
think we did overlook chicken.
I mean, I know we did pig and
Cow, but I don't think we did bird with chicken, which chicken and bird is the same time. For that's why I'm like sitting here realizing, oh
how
wait,
did
maybe
we
we
not think
didn't.
of? Okay.
I'm honestly surprised too because chicken is such a common food, even with chicken
We
nuggets,
did
chicken fingers.
sandwiches,
Oh,
and I think that got us all stirred up.
it did.
It
That's why,
did.
because I got all
Because it was a
excited
new
for the
one.
different types of sandwiches. And there is even a chicken sandwich, and I didn't think about it. Well, here we're catching up with our chicken, okay? And so chicken and bird, same thing, is going to be that 20, but on your nose. Chicken. Mm-hmm. Chicken, bird, they're all here. Okay. And again, context clues does typically help with this. Now, if you have a pet chicken and you're trying to be specific, which that does happen, we're in Alabama. I typically would fingerspell chicken that one time, just be like chicken, pet chicken, and then fingerspell chicken. So it's known you're not talking about an actual bird. Yes. So when you're talking about the food chicken and the food, but like any type of bird, if you're talking about like a quail or not a duck, duck does have its own. We will come to that one. That's our next one. But any type of bird that you have for food wise, you would do the sign for this. Again, context and finger spelling does kind of help clarify with
Hey,
that.
Jillian, would
Yes.
you do the sign for food and the kind of bird to clarify that you're talking about? Do you know what I'm saying? And not just, I
If
hope in your conversation you'd be there already.
Yeah, because if you think about it, someone's like asking, like, well, last night I ate chicken or I ate bird and then I did like quail, which I've never had quail. I'm typically 9 times out of 10, this is my chicken. Um, or if someone were to ask me, last night what'd you eat or what'd you eat for lunch, that sort of thing. I think the context of it being something you've ate will already be there. But if there was all else fails and you're trying to clarify exactly, so my nose is so itchy, what like it's food and not like a pet or anything, you can always add the food, chicken, that sort of thing. It does help. So, okay. So we're gonna do duck real quick and then we'll review. Only reason is because duck and chicken are very similar and I feel like it's weird to not have them next to each other. Oh, okay. I paused. We have one more question. So chicken and turkey. We did turkey last week. So turkey is this. And so turkey would be the gobble, oh no, not that word again. The word escapes me every time. You know what I'm talking about, this part. And then chicken. So they do have their own separate, like you don't have like I guess when I say bird, I will clarify with this one for bird, any birds that we have not already had a sign for. So like a turkey would already be here. So you wouldn't ever sign this for turkey because it has its own. Any bird that doesn't, like a quail, I'm trying to think of other birds that you eat. Not many people eat a lot of birds. I feel we don't have as often. Maybe wild pheasants, that sort of thing. They would be, which I would also recommend if you ever are having an actual bird that's not a typical chicken, I probably would want to fingerspell it just for specifics. I don't know how specific y'all get with your food and how fancy and different things are. I like my chicken, and that's about it. I am not that foodie that tries all the different types of meats. I'm like, no, 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 no. I stay in my little bubble. I don't want alligator. Okay, we're good. Like, I know we say it tastes like chicken. I don't want that. I want the actual chicken. I'm just one of those people. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what kind of birds other people eat. But
You
yes, so
you
that's
be
what I'm doing.
you, Jillian.
Exactly. I enjoy my chicken. I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one we were gonna do is the sign for duck. And so duck is basically it's the same thing as bird, but with two fingers. Duck, 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 duck. And I do think that I don't know, I always love that one because it's the bill, it's making it slightly flatter. And it's just really cute. And when I have hard of hearing kids, I never talk about ducks. I always go quack, 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 quack. I don't know why. It feels the need. It has to go with it. It just has to. And I get the eye roll so many times when I do it. And I say, I don't care. It's a duck. Ducks make quack sounds. So, all right, let's go back. We had animal, animal, animal. We had pet, pet. hmm We had dog, dog, or the dog, dog. We had cat, cat, and then fish, fish or fish, and then bird slash our chicken, bird, and then duck, duck. Okay, so now the next one we have is the sign for snake. And so the sign for snake is you're going to have a two. My pinky always wants to come up on that. I don't know why. Every time we do it two, it's like wants to do this. I'm like, no, we're not doing a seven. It's a two. You're going to bend your two, bring it to your mouth, and then zigzag out. Snake, snake, snake. I feel this one makes a lot of sense for it with the fangs and everything. So, snake. Okay. The next one we have is bug. So this is the generic, just any type of bug. Okay. So you're going to have a three. You're going to bring your thumb to your nose and you're going to bend your two fingers. Bug, 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 bug. Now with bug, that one can be very, very generic. And then some people have very specific signs for every kind of type of bug, like mosquito, things like that. I've seen others where they just keep it with bug, bug. Um, there are, I think, two that I do see a bit more often having their own sign, and then the others just kind of using that. Well, I lied. Three. There's three because I hate this one. That's why I forget about it. I tried to keep it out of my mind. Um, but these three I see a little bit more common with their signs, and then the others kept generic with that bug sign. Okay, so the first one is going to be our B sign. And so for B, it's you have that nine. You're going to poke and then gently slap. B, B. So it's the visual of this being the stinger. It pokes you and then you, ow, it hurts. That's the visual. B, B, B. Okay. The other one is spider. And so for spider, you're going to have two fives and you're going to cross them over each other. Okay. And then you wiggle your fingers. Spider, spider. This one is cute. I will admit, I do think this one's cute. Especially when it's Halloween and it's all like, ooh, the spiders ever. Oh, it's so much fun to sign with. And then the last one is a cockroach or a roach. And it's cockroach with the no, like, but the I hate this one. I don't like this one. I do not like this one because I don't like cockroaches. Like that's like the one bug that's like, freaks me out. I can handle a spider all day long. Does not bother me. Bees, I don't even freak out with them. Wasps, the same way. But if I
You
see a
know, I feel like
cockroach,
we could take liberties here and say, this is a free class where you learn ASL signs, but we will not teach you the sign for cockroach. And we could just leave it out.
yes. I'll be like, preface, we will never sign this one because it gives me the EBGBs. Like I hate it so much. Okay. The next one we're gonna do is our sign for rat slash mouse, which it is the same sign. I do see sometimes people to add the letter for rat to help kind of clarify, but they both are the same. And so the sign is rat, mouse and rat. You just have your pointer finger, and you brush it across your nose. I have seen some people will go rat with the R for rat. Not as much as I do with just the pointer finger across. Rat, mouse. Okay. Now, I do like to add this one here because Mickey Mouse, you would not fingerspell Mickey and add the sign for mouse. He's got his own, okay? And his sign is Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. This is also for Disney, so like Disney World, anything Disney, that sort of thing. Um, I just always like to add this one here because I think it's a fun one, and it's fun to see some characters that get their own sign just because they're so well known. They get it. They like have their own. Not many do. At least so I've seen. I gotta take these ponytails off. Sorry, I'm hitting that point with my wrist where like, you get not carpal tunnel, but it's like the starting of carpal tunnel, and I have to like massage my hand before, especially if I chat too much all day, like signing, it gets sore. Um, we're gonna do one, let's see, wait, two, four, six. Okay, no, we are actually gonna go back. I'm trying to chunk it appropriately, so I'm not throwing too many at y'all, and we have to go back too much. So we're gonna review again. So we had snake, snake. We had bug, bug, bug. So the three with the thumb, bug. We had our bee, bee, bee. We had our spider, spider. We had our roach. We had our roach, roach. And then we had our rat slash mouse, rat, mouse. And you do want to kind of bounce this one a little, not bounce, do it once or at least twice, because it can look very similar to mine. Do you mind? Do you mind? You mind doing that? So you want to kind of have it a few times. And then our Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is turtle. And there are two ways you can do it. The first one is you're going to have your dominant in a thumb, it's that position. Your non-dominant is going to be like that kind of cupping shape. You're going to bring the back of your non-dominant towards your dominant's thumb, okay? And then you cover it, and then you just wiggle the little head. Turtle, turtle. Because it looks like a turtle with a shell. Isn't it I'm sorry, this one's one of my favorite ones. I think it is the cutest thing in the world. And when I first was learning ASL, this one, my first animal, I could always remember. I never forgot because I thought it was just the cutest thing in the world. Turtle. Okay, so turtle. The other one is sea turtle. So the way you would do sea turtle is you would have two close together fives and you lay them on top of each other, okay? And then you wiggle your thumbs, sea turtle. And it's because if you were to look at it from like an aerial view, if you look down at it, it would look like a sea turtle when they're swimming in the water. So sea turtle. hmm Okay. The next one we're going to do is a lion. And so for lion, you're going to have a five, slightly bend your fingers, okay? You're going to start here at the top of your head and you're going to shake all the way down. Lion. And so this is to represent the mane, lion. So even if you were talking about a female lion, a lioness, you would still do lion, even though they do not have that mane. You would just be like female lion, that sort of thing. Okay. Then we have tiger. So tiger is going to have that same sort of position, the two fives slightly bent. You're going to bring them in front of your face and slide across. Tiger, tiger. And that's to represent the stripes across your face. Okay? So tiger. Then we have bear. And so bear is you're going to cross your hands and you're going to pull up. Bear, 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 bear. Now, with the types of bears, I do see often a black bear, brown bear, and then I have seen occasionally for polar bear where they'll do white bear. Just because that is typically like when you say a white bear, it's not going to be confused with some other kind of bear. I mean, unless you're talking, we're not going to spiral. I was about to spiral into, unless you're talking about an albino, and I said, no, 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 no. We're not going to get into the specifics of that. That is a whole other way you would explain that. Um, the only one I do see often having to be finger spelled is a grizzly bear. So grizzly. Um, but yeah, I just thought I always like to add that, and I think it's because with bears, that is one of those few types of animals that we just keep it with the color. Did you see a black bear? Did you see a brown bear? Did you see a polar bear? Like it's a little bit easier than some of our other animals that have very specific names. Okay? The next one we're gonna do is the sign for cow. And so for cow, if you remember last week, it's gonna be the two Y's. You're gonna put them on the side of your head and then pull them forward. Cow, cow. Okay? Now you can go one hand and go cow, cow. For a teddy bear, Typically, I do bear doll or doll bear. I don't like that's usually what I see. So the sign, I know this is so random, but I'm gonna give you guys the sign for doll. And it's an X and you brush it down your nose. Doll, doll. This is any generic doll, okay? So I would do a bear, doll, bear, doll, bear. That's how I say teddy bear because it's a bear, but it's not real. And yeah, there's sometimes I always think it's funny when some kids and people, and it's not wrong. I just think, I don't know, it's like a little giggle joke to me, is when they say fake bear when they're trying to talk about a teddy bear or a stuffed bear and they go fake bear. I have seen that and I'm like, I don't know why that gets me. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's fake, but I'm like, don't it just I'm like, how do not real, fake? What I'd rather a doll.
I agree. Also, I would think literally they meant a bear costume. Do you know
Yes,
something?
like it just, I don't know, the whole fakeness gets me. I don't know why that just, I'm so weird about that, but I'm like, no, I'm like, because I guess, because like you're right, it could be just like when you're talking about a person in a costume or a costume. No, we're talking about a doll that is a bear, a teddy bear. Okay. All right. So then our next one before we review, because we did move a bit more, is horse. And so the reason we're continuing with horse is because horse is very similar to cow. So you're going to have a three on each hand. You're going to put them together and you're going to put your thumbs by the side of your head and bend them. Horse, horse, horse. You can also with the one hand horse. Okay. So with stuffed animal, I typically if it's a thing like a teddy bear, where like it is a stuffed animal, a teddy bear is a stuffed animal. That's where I usually would add that bear doll bear as a replacement of stuffed animal, because you can just fingerspell stuffed animal. You can. That's typically how you would do it. But if I was talking about a teddy bear or a like a dog. Like I have like a stuffed dog. Like I have a stuffed little dog I've had since I was a kid. I typically go doll, dog, like a dog, doll, dog, doll, just as that sort of way. And I think also that I will say in my with that is I think it's because I work with kids, and so sometimes when you fingerspell stuffed, that can kind of get confusing. Whereas saying a doll is a toy, they like, oh, okay, that sort of thing. Um, but you can always just say stuffed. I know I signed that really fast. Stuffed animal. To work with that. But then again, you can also add that doll too. So, okay, let's go back. So we had our turtle. So turtle, turtle, turtle. Our sea turtle, sea turtle. We had our lion, lion, lion. Our tiger, tiger. Our bear, bear. Our cow, cow or cow. Our horse, horse or horse. Okay. So our next chunk is going to be monkey or sign, sorry, it's going to be monkey. So monkey is very, very simple. It is exactly what you think and what we have signed it before. Monkey, 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 monkey. Excuse me. All right, the next one is going to be a gorilla. Now, gorilla does have its own. And so gorilla is going to be two A's, and you just do King Kong, basically. Gorilla, gorilla. Mm-hmm. Gorilla. Then we have a giraffe. So for giraffe, what you're going to do is you're going to have your non-dominant kind of in that wide C. You're going to have your neck kind of slightly tilted. You're not looking fully up yet, but it is tilted. You're going to start the base and you're going to go up. Giraffe, giraffe, giraffe. Okay. Then we have elephant. Elephant is you're going to have that bent hand shape again. You're going to bring the back to your nose and you're going to go elephant, elephant, elephant. elephant.
I have a
So,
question.
yes.
So I know with baby signs and like kids, they kind of gradually build on I guess the formal sign. I've seen elephant like this before. Was that
Mhm.
for children or is that just another variation of it? It's kind of like the same motion that you're doing, but instead of holding it
Mhm.
like this, it's kind of like you're
Making the
holding the
trunk more
trunk.
specific,
Yeah.
more specific. That probably it could be either way. The reason, and I say this because I've not seen that one as much. I typically do see this one more. But I could see with this because of how it really signifies the trunk. I could see that being a kid sign, or also it could be that variation, like in a different area they do elephant. Especially because it's so similar to this that I could see that being a variation. I just not have seen that personally myself. Okay. The next one we're going to do is our pig, which we did last week, which is pig, pig, mm-hmm, pig. And then let's see, two. Okay. And then the next one is zebra. So zebra, gosh, sorry guys, my nose is like so itchy. I think it's just getting really dry because of the weather. So I keep like having to rub it. It's driving me crazy. So for zebra, you're gonna have two fours. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna have one up here and one kind of across down low, and you go zebra. So you literally just zigzag zebra, zebra. This is also similar for the sign for stripes, which would make sense since zebras are covered in stripes, that sort of thing. So zebra, zebra. Okay. I know that one was not the most clear. All right. The next one we're going to do is a frog slash toad. I do see this one for both. I typically fingerspell toad. Frog I leave as this one. Toad I will fingerspell and then add, or I will sign and then add the fingerspell for toad. Okay, so frog, what you're going to do is you're going to have your two fingers sort of bent like this. Bring it under your chin and then you're going to flick them out. Frog, frog, frog. Okay. So frog, and then like I said, toad of finger swell. All right. Let's do. Hmm. No, we'll stop there and review. Okay. So we had our monkey, monkey, monkey. We had our gorilla, gorilla. We had giraffe, giraffe, giraffe. We had elephant, elephant, elephant. We had pig, pig. Zebra, zebra, and then frog slash toad. Frog, frog. Okay. The next one we have is an alligator. This one is also used often for crocodile too. Typically, it's very similar like how we did with our frog. This will stay as alligator. If you're talking about a crocodile, I typically see and do the sign for alligator with then fingerspell croc, croc. Just a quick, simple CROC. Okay. So the sign for alligator is alligator. It's literally just like the mouth with the teeth. Alligator. All right. The next one we have is the sign for butterfly. And so the sign for butterfly, sorry, phone again was sliding, is going to be the two. It's what we think of if you remember, or if you've seen people who sign for bird when they're talking about a bird flying, but it's butterfly. So now when anybody's trying to be all, dancing, coming up with dance moves to songs, and they're talking about birds flying away, no, you can tell them you're talking about a butterfly flying away. It's not a bird. Butterfly. Okay. And I use, golly, this nose. I use butterfly and then I fingerspell moth just to kind of clarify that when I'm talking about moths, and that sort of thing. Okay. The next one we have is penguin. Penguin is hard. I'm kind of cornered. If I move my chair anywhere, I'm gonna bump into a dog. Penguin, basically at your hips, you have your arms out like this, but it's like flat down here at your hips, and then you waddle. Okay, I apologize, you cannot see me right now, but I will literally bump into any dog if I move forward or backwards. So you just kind of have that cute little move with your arms. Penguin. Okay. The next one we have is owl. And so for owl, you're going to have two O's and you put them in front of your eyes and just go owl. 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 Okay. Then we have wolf, which I can't remember if we did. I don't think we did this one. Um, there's a reason why I was thinking of it, and I'm about to explain it. So for wolf, what you're going to do is you're going to have your five kind of in your face like this, and you're going to pull it out and close. Wolf. So you want to be careful to come out and not go down, because when you do that same motion but down, this is sleep. So sleep is going down versus wolf is coming out because of the snout. Wolf. Wolf. And what's a fun fact is the sign for werewolf is literally wolf man. So I always enjoy adding that because I think it's just very cool to have be able to say a werewolf, wolf man. I wish everyone could have the class during the month of Halloween because we do an entire class dedicated to Halloween signs. And I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite classes because I genuinely love Halloween. I love all the signs. So many different things have their own little sign, and I think it is the coolest thing ever. So I always like to just mention, I think because we do have it recorded, I do recommend going back at some point and going and looking at Halloween signs if Halloween is a big thing for you like it is for me. It's always fun. So, okay. Then the next one we're gonna have is deer. Deer and moose, basically, they're gonna go together. And the reason you will see. So for deer, you're gonna have two fives, and you're going to have them on the side of your head. Deer. Okay, deer. Then for moose, same position, but bring it out. Moose. 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 Now, some people will flip them and kind of just depends. I've seen them, honestly, I've seen them both ways. I've seen it being with deer or being with moose and then deer, deer, either or. I typically keep this with deer and then this with moose just because moose goes out longer. It makes that sort of longer shape. Okay. Then we have fox. And so for fox, you're going to have an F and you're going to put it on your nose. Fox. Fox. I think this one is such a cute little one as well. I don't know. There's no connection. I always try to think of some kind of visual connection with these signs. Sometimes they're super easy and it makes sense. Cat, whiskers. But then you have some like fox where it's like, I have nothing I can say. It's just cute. Fox. Okay. All right. So let's go back real quick. So we had our alligator slash croc, alligator. Then we had butterfly, butterfly. We had our penguin, penguin, penguin. We had our owl, owl. We had our wolf, wolf. And then our werewolf, werewolf, because I feel that is important to know. And then deer, deer. And then moose, moose, moose. And then fox, fox. Okay. So this will be our last chunk we're about to go through, and then we're going to go through some phrases that go with animals, but also can go with food because we didn't finish those last week. I do remember that. So the next one we have is the sign for raccoon. And so for raccoon, you're going to have two twos. You're going to bring them over your eyes and then go raccoon, raccoon, raccoon. So I'm like closing them in front of my face. And it's to make that motion of like the dark circles around their eyes. Okay, so raccoon, raccoon. And it's not when you want to keep repeatedly, constantly signing. I will say that. So you kind of want to like do it once or twice and then be done before you start making your eyes go across because you're like, whoo, that's a lot of motion in my face. All right. The next one we have is the sign for squirrel. This is also the same sign for chipmunk. And so what you're going to have is two twos again. You're going to bend both of them and then put one on top of the other. And then you Do the bouncing. It's like the teeth. Squirrel, chipmunk. Okay. Then we have, oh gosh, we always, okay. Sorry, my list shortened and I realized I was looking at it. Like I said, we had a shorter list, but we're about to go into all the ocean animal, like go into two ocean animals and that was it. And I'm like, no, there's like at least three or four more we can add to that. So this little chunk is going to be a bit longer. What we do before we get into that, I do want to add, if you were talking about a puppy, a kitten, any sort of babies, with the animals. One nice thing about ASL versus English is, there's all these different fancy words for talking about a baby goat. There's the kids, there's the fo- foals. I knew how to say it. I knew how to write it. Could not think of how to pronounce it for a minute there. Kittens, puppies, all those different words. When you're talking about a kitten or a puppy or anything like that, in ASL, it's literally just the sign. So like dog and then baby, dog, baby or cat, baby, that sort of thing. So when you're talking about a baby, which I know we haven't done goat, I love how that was the first one, and then we haven't done goat. But if you're talking about a baby goat, you wouldn't have to say a kid, because that would just be confusing. What you would do is literally just do sign for goat and then baby, which the sign for goat, I'm going to show you before I describe it because it's hard to describe, is goat, goat, goat. So it's like you're about to flick those fingers. You have it at your chin because this is representing the like the scruffy chin, and then you flick up for the horns. Goat, goat. So this is actually, this is a really good question. No one's ever asked this question before, and I love this. So when talk about a group of animals, because they're called herds, they're called packs, I know a group of crows is called a murder, those sort of things, all those fancy, fancy terms. In ASL, you just say dogs, group of dogs. It's literally just that motion of having a group of dogs. So for if you ever struggle with those kinds of words, which I know I do sometimes, it really helps in ASL because it's really you don't gotta worry about it. It's just a group of dogs, a group of cats, a group of cows, that sort of thing. And again, it's more so because the context of it, like English, I have to go on my little English field. English likes to add a little bit of too many different words for too many different things. And it honestly is like, I get it. We get it. We do. Sometimes it's not always that necessary when the context and the meaning behind it is just talking about a group of something. So sometimes that's why ASL can be really nice. Okay. All right, now let's move on to some of our water animals. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for a whale, okay? Your non-dominant is going to be across like this. You do kind of want it out away from your body a little bit. Doesn't have to be, you're not stretching it out, but just it's away. You're going to have your dominant in a Y shape, and you're going to start with it touching your, oh gosh, I can't remember what this body part is. This is your forearm. This is your, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. We're not gonna worry about that right now. That the fact that that word just left me. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go whale, whale, whale. And so the visual of this is like it is the forearm. Sorry. Wait, no, that's your forearm. Oh my gosh. No. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm really mad that I can't remember that word right now. Um, It's the visual of the whale's tail smacking the water. So you're going to see this kind of motion a little bit again. Goodness, with my nose. And it's basically visualizing this is the line of the ocean or line of the water. And so the whale's tail comes out and smacks the water. I do think this one's actually very cool because of that visual. It's very visually pleasing. Goodness. Okay. Our next one that we're going to do with that same motion is going to be dolphin. Sorry, I wanted to say dinosaur. Guys, my nose, it's literally driving me crazy. I cannot think of words right now. It's like because I keep having to itch it. So your non-dominant again is going to be in this position. Now with dolphin, there are a few different ways you can do it. It's all the same motion. It's just how you slightly change your hand shape. Okay. So I'm going to show you the first one. And so the first one is you're going to have your three again, bring your two fingers together, and then you go dolphin, dolphin, dolphin. Okay. So again, the visual is it jumping in the ocean. Think about it coming up for air and then going right back down. Dolphin. Okay. Straight across like this. And you go up. Because this is like the dorsal fin on the top, while this, like, think about almost like a visual of it being the shadow of a dolphin motion. Okay. The other way you can do it is again that same position, but now you cross your two fingers. Dolphin, dolphin. Okay, exact same motion, just crossed fingers instead of the two together. And then the final one is with a D, dolphin, dolphin. Actually don't care for the letter for this one for some reason. I think it's prettier with the, I actually like this one where you cross your fingers and you do it. I don't know what it is. I just think that I think it just looks really cool. I think also the reason I like it is because the nose sticks out more on a dolphin. So this is like the nose versus the mouth kind of deal. At least that's my thing. But again, I've seen all three. I see all three honestly quite often. So it's just kind of who you're talking to. But since it's all just changing but the same motion, it's not one of those where it's going to get too confusing with another sign. Okay? The next one we're going to do is the sign for, okay, we're going to do this one and then I'm going to stop and let you guys tell me other animals you would like to see. And then we'll finalize our like sentences because I know we're getting close. Is a shark. Now, shark, there are two ways you can do it. One of them is much more common, but I do always add a little word of caution just because it is very similar to another sign. And then this one is just it's just there. So the first one we're going to do is the one that is much more often seen, and it is shark. Shark. Okay. Now, I do like to have this one. I recommend being a little bit higher on the head for this because if you have it here with your forehead like that, sometimes that can look like a not nice word. Because the not nice word that we typically think of more often that starts with that letter B is right here at your chin. So this is the female one versus the male one. So I'm always kind of careful with this one. I like it a little bit higher up just so it's known I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about this. Okay, so sharp. And the cool thing I like with that one, even though there is that closeness, is that that one is also really helpful when scuba diving. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced it or if you're like interested in it. But a lot of people will actually they've applied using that sign with even talking just underwater and scuba diving because that's a very helpful word to know and be aware of. And so I love seeing how even when professional scuba divers who do not sign, they're hearing people, they still use shark. I think it's just such a cool like way of that's a not a universal, but a universal like sign. So yeah. And the other way of signing shark is you're gonna have I always say the Spock, basically. Okay. With your non-dominant, and you have it sideways with, and then your dominant's a B, and you put it in the middle. Shark. 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 And then I always like to add it moving because sharks are always moving, sort of deal. So shark. Shark. My favorite animal is a shark, which is why I can be a little bit specific on my things with shark. I think it's fun. So shark. Okay. All right. Now, let's, I'm going to leave it open for any animals, other animals you can think of that you're curious of, anything like that. And then we'll move on to some phrases. Oh, sorry. That was not a bad, oh, that was I've not thought of that one. Um, so with peacock, um, fun fact, I have seen two ways kind of doing it. One is finger spelling it, and then others like peacock, peacock, peacock. Now, or like peacock. With this is more of a description, not necessarily a sign. I was actually having this conversation literally this morning with my spelling class. Sometimes with signs that do not have a sign, sometimes with words that do not have a sign, you can sometimes almost not give it a sign, but assign it a description of it. So a peacock is one of those ones where I probably do the animal that goes where it goes whoop, goes up like this. Or I'd be like a bird that does kind of deal, just to show that I'm talking about a peacock. And I think those are always kind of a cool moment to do where you can kind of use descriptions. I was going to say descriptions to clarify what kind of animal you're talking about. But typically with peacock, you would finger spell peacock. Peacock. But I always like, because I've always see people that go peacock and then they go, very visual. We love ourselves some visualities. You don't just finger spell everything and be all boring. You still got to add a little flair with it, a little description. So that's what I've seen with peacock. For sloth, I do see that one finger spelled. Unfortunately, I have not seen a sign for sloth. Um, Again, that is also one where I'll see like sloth, and then I'll see someone going slow with the animal kind of motion. It's very fun. And that's something. Flamingo. I knew someone was gonna ask that. Flamingo? It's got an interesting conversation with that because flamingo, I finger spell flamingo. I have seen some people where they'll have like on the app or they'll sign like flamingo, flamingo, where it's like the one finger and all that. Well, no, it's usually the middle finger, unfortunately. Um, this I do not typically see often, and it's because it very much is still the not nice finger. Um, and I do not see that one as common with signing with flamingo. I see more people just finger spelling it. But the only reason I give you that is because I think there are some people, and probably in some regions, that do use that for flamingo. But most of the time, it's just we finger spell it, flamingo. Um, yeah, this one I would just be very careful because it still does not look nice. So, but that was another one that I was actually thinking of when I was explaining about how you can still finger spell a word but add some little flares to clarify all that. Because I would probably even, knowing me and knowing my person, I would probably finger spell flamingo and then show the motion of like a bird on one foot kind of deal. So. Any other animals you guys can think of? I told you some of these are not going to have signs. I warned y'all ahead of time, so I would not be too disappointing. Unicorn does have its own sign though. Okay, so unicorn is you're going to have an R and then you put it on your forehead, unicorn. So it's like the twisting of the horn. Yeah, unicorn. I do love how we have animals like flamingo and sloth that just don't really have their own sign. But then unicorn, a mystical creature, has its own sign. I will also add this here. It's not mystical because they used to be real, but they're extinct as dinosaur. I do love me a dinosaur sign. So dinosaur is a D, and you go dinosaur. Dinosaur. Like it's walking. Dinosaur. Sometimes you can add the arm and be like dinosaur. Dinosaur. But you can also be without dinosaur. I do love me a dinosaur sign. I'm very biased. I love me some dinosaurs. So yeah, that one's always a fun one, especially when you're trying to fingerspell certain dinosaurs. I've learned we keep it simple, okay? If there's a really good fanatic who really likes dinosaurs, yes, I will fingerspell iguanodon and triceratops and all of that. And then you have some where you start fingerspelling, they're just like, okay, I've lost interest in my dinosaurs again. I'm like, hey, good to know. So, all right. What we're going to do now is we are going to move on to some phrases. But if you still think of any animals, please feel free to send them into the chat. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I wanted to focus on the three sentences that we had last week, but we didn't get to. It is the want, don't want, don't like, need, don't need. Okay. So the first one for want. So what you're going to do for want is you're going to have two fives. They are slightly ahead of you. Okay. And you're going to pull them and bend your fingers back to you. Want, want. Okay. Want. All right. And then for don't want, there are two ways you can do it. One of them is you're going to add the sign for not in it. Okay. Which we'll come to. The other one is you're going to do exact same motion as want, and then throw it away. Don't want, don't want, don't want. So it's very, very much think of like, I always think about like a toddler when you give them something and they take it from you, like you give it and they look at it and then they go, "Pff," and they throw it down because they're like, I don't want that. Don't want, don't want. Okay. Don't want. The other one is not want. So not is going to be a thumbs up kind of deal. You're going to bring it under your chin and come forward. Not, not, not. This one I would really recommend remembering and keeping in the back of your mind because anytime you're talking about the unwelcome, unflavor, on whatever, I'm making up kind of word connections. Every single time you think of that or that not sort of thing, this is it. Okay. So that is, it's almost going to be that's your go-to for any kind of opposite of something. So like favorite, not my favorite. Favorite, not my favorite sort of deal. Okay. That one helps a lot when you're talking about not this, not that sort of deal. Okay. So we had our want, we had our don't want. The next one is like. Okay. So for like, you're going to start with your middle finger and your thumb touching your chest, and you're going to pull it together as you pull it away. Like, like. So this like for don't like, same exact process we had talked about. We're going to go like and then throw it away. Don't like, don't like, don't like. Don't like. Okay. You can also do don't like, or like, don't like. Okay. And add the not there for the don't like. All right. The last one we have is need. All right. And so for need is an X. You're going to tap it like this. Need. Okay. And then for don't need, you're just going to add the not need. Not need. Don't need. Not need. Don't need. Okay. All right. Also, I'll just add this here because I think it's helpful to know. Must is one time. Must. Must. Especially because if you think about it, need and must, I need you to focus. Well, you must focus. Sorry, had to think of how we say it in English because I was about to say, I must focus. And I was like, no. I don't need to focus. You need to focus. But how you would say that sentence, typically going from the I need you to focus, you must focus is the exact same thing. That one, like, it's very final with it. Must do this sort of deal. Okay. All right. So the next one we're going to do is the sign for allergic. Okay. So this goes with our food and our animals. So the sign for allergic is you're going to start with two fingers. You're going to have them pointing towards each other near your nose, and then you go allergic, allergic. You can go away or you can go sideways. I've seen both. Allergic, 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 allergic. I think I typically go allergic. Like I pull one back, allergic. Okay. And that's because this motion is opposite. So when you're talking about opposite of two things, I typically have my pointer finger moving away from everything. Now, when I'm going sideways like this, I do kind of have both. But if I'm doing it from my nose like that, I typically will do my pointer finger. So think about your fingers aligned, like they're lined up. So like I have my non-dominant almost like flush with my cheek versus my dominant is diagonally pointing. You see what I see? Where it's like almost, I'm like pointing almost towards you, sort of deal. There you go. Yeah. Allergic, or allergic. I know that one's a weird one to position because it's like, how do you do it? And like I said, I've seen people change it up often. I've seen somewhere it's away from the nose, somewhere it's side next to the nose. I've seen it just know it's always near your nose. Okay. So if you were to say I'm allergic to something, you would probably do cats, meat, allergic. Cats, meat, allergic. Okay. And if you did ever forget the sign for allergic, This would just be helpful for an emergency sort of situation. So like you didn't have a high risk of it. I typically like if I had forgotten the sign for allergic, I'd probably go cats, me, like I'd make the motion of like sneezing to show like, okay, that causes a reaction out of me, sort of deal. Just a little tidbit if you're having an emergency and you do forget the sign for allergic. Okay. All right. The next one I have is my favorite animal. All right. So you can go the more English Spanish way, you can go the ASL way. So for the more English way, but we see it as my favorite animal. So my, and then favorite is going to be your middle finger, tap your chin, favorite animal. Okay. My favorite animal, shark. Your favorite animal, whatever. Okay. And then the other way you would do is you would say shark, my favorite. Okay. So if you remember when we talked about, because we talked about in the beginning, is like the English versus ASL, the grammar structure does change a bit. And again, like I had said, if you do sign my favorite animal, shark, it's not like it's going to lose the context of the meaning. It's just not going to be that perfect ASL structure. And since this is just beginning and more just exposure and you're learning some basic conversation, that is a okay. If you're going to go a full-on signing kind of conversation, you may want to try to modify it a little bit to be more ASL, but also again, you would still get your point across. Okay? All right. The last thing I have is the sign for more and less. Okay? And so the sign for more is going to be two kind of flattish O's, and you go more, 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 more. Then the sign for less is your non-dominant is palm up. Your dominant comes up here, and you go less, less, less. Okay, less. All right, that's also like for reduce when you're reducing something. Reduce. Okay. All right. Are there any other animals or questions you guys have? They don't have to necessarily directly relate with those phrases. Anything you guys can think of. Oh, we're silent. Okay. I am going to give you all one more thing just real quick. It's just a little, it shouldn't be too complicated, and then I'll let you guys go. Is if you were going to talk about the pets you have, how many pets you have. All right. You're going to follow that exact same pattern that we did with family. So if you remember, we listed, you're going to follow that exact same way with it. Okay. Like for me, I have two dogs. So like if someone asked me how many pets do you have, I'd say two. Oops, I don't know why I said cat. Both dog. And then I would go into listing like their names and things like that. But if you were to have like a cat, a dog, whichever way you place them, keep them in that same spot. Okay. And I typically follow by age order. You do not necessarily have to. You can also have them through like a whichever process, ever order you want. It's just keep them in their positions. Okay. So I just wanted to give that because I know someone might be wondering, well, how do I talk about my pets? That's what you would do. Okay. Let's see. I think that's it. If you guys have no other questions, for next week, I think next week is going to be emotions. I don't think we've done emotions, like feelings, and then a hodgepodge where we kind of
Mm-hmm.
mix up different
Yep.
topics. Because I was like, we can shorten our emotions. We can.
And that'll be the last class. So so but again, you're more than welcome to take the class again. We're happy to have you. You can just email me. But if you do think of any other animals, any food signs, any kind of signs that you want to go over or you want to learn, let me know before next week.
Yes, please do. Even any topics that you would really like to see that we haven't covered, send those so we can definitely get a list out. Next week's class is, I think, a little bit more you guys kind of way. Like we want to have it more focused on what you guys want to know and want to see. And if y'all don't say anything, which is fine too, that's when we do our emotions and our hodgepodge, where I just kind of we have different topics we go through. So. All righty. Well, then I will let y'all go. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye.